They're talking about circumcised, because also the pineal gland is also called the penis of God. And the pineal gland that they're talking about is not necessarily talking about the penis down here. It's talking the uncircumcised penis is talking about a calcified pineal gland, which broken down, that's uncircumcised, which means it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And all of the above, they can't see, they can't hear. The DNA, if it's a mock nuclei with one ring of consciousness, even the DNA is only 2 strands, but they are even saying now that even in genetics, even as far as temporary intelligence from the medium, the original ones. From its very nature, it is exceedingly liable to be swayed by all kinds of evil influences, and it is being separated from the higher ego. It has nothing in its constitution capable of responding to the good ones, or what they call the original ones, the black ones. It is therefore lends itself readily by several minor purposes of some baser sort of black magicians. The mental matter possesses gradually disintegrates and returns from the general matter of its own plane. So in so many words, whoever these magicians was doing, they was trying to create a new race of people for whatever thing they wanted lordship over. And they ended up dying up, and we get these damn fools running the damn earth now as an experiment gone bad. This is the astro body 169 of the astro body, Lieutenant Colonel A.E. Powell's book that I mentioned in my tape, Human Artificial. Moving right along. Moving right along. In the particular Nag Hammett, in the book, The Apocryphon of John, they talk about the creation of these counterfeit spirits, which these particular counterfeit spirits. Now, unfortunately, when we read these texts, we come to find out that in actuality, before they created the white man, based on these particular texts, that they created a counterfeit spirit of a black man. Which in so many words, it also says, and in so many words, you got black people down here that don't even have souls. Based on the amount of people that you have now compared to the original people. You got millions of people. You didn't have original souls that was transferred down here, original sons. S-U-N, so they talk about that, but that's a whole nother lecture. But nevertheless, this is what we're still talking about, is these particular counterfeit spirits. In Blavatsky's book, they talk about a chapter called No Shadow, No God, because the shadow in Jungian psychology, and the shadow is also that's in the shadow that is also in that they talk about that she's talking about in Blavatsky's works, is nothing but melanin. Melanin is the key component, which in actuality is a substance that is created by a soul. So the soul creates the melanin in its purest form. It's just like you have a light and you strike a match, and the next thing you know, if you put it up against that white wall, you'll see that soot. That soot is coming from that fire. Well, that's what the melanin does. It creates, the soul creates a shadow. And this original soul, which is the word Christ, Christos, crystallized essence, it gives off a shadow, which is this particular carbon, 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutron, which is the basis of carbon, which is the basis of melanin. So melanin is created by the soul. And the soul is a little subatomic particle down in the gastrointestinal tract, or what they call root chakra. Root chakra. Now, because it was an animal man, you always get this, you get this particular picture, and every now and then you get this particular picture here of, this is a picture coming from, like I said, I had a friend named Wesley X, had a lot of real pictures coming from Paris, France, where they had a lot of Europeans. They have a lot of pictures over in Europe of babies or children born with tails. This is one that I was able to get on the European, born with a tail. Born with a tail, but it's I got a better picture somewhere at the house and all, but this is the one I reproduced in the particular book, Human Artificials. But in so many words and all, there's several ones, and they got several pictures over in Europe where this is common. They just amputate these things now at birth and all like that. They just amputate these things at birth also now. Now moving right along. In so many words, because this particular entity comes in at a time and not at the time before creation or during creation, where it's transferred down here, this particular entity that we call does not have the full function of the pineal gland, which produces the melanin or synthesizes the actual melanin. It doesn't have the full function of that particular pineal gland. As well as we know now in the whole missions of melanin, even to the point where as it's inferior sexually, and now the new thing with Viagra is made of melanin, which is proved. We even have the brochures, and we'll get ready to have this Hemmitt summit down here, where they literally showed the white boys taking doses of melatonin, and as a result of taking the doses of the melatonin, they had advanced, heightened sexual activity, arousal. So the Viagra and several things right now is made of the actual melanin. One of the keys here on why this particular thing functions and literally took over the planet Earth and literally killed off tons of the indigenous people around the earth, millions and millions of indigenous people around the earth, and made us small, as the book of Enoch said. We even became food for them. As the book of Enoch suggests, R.H. Charles' book of Enoch, the Ethiopian book of Enoch, was not added into the Old Testament because, number one, it's way older. We have become food for them. Now they're taking the melatonin pill so they can do this stuff in style. But the reason why they're this way at all, because the simple fact that they have a closed down heart chakra. Now, based on the Egyptian, the heart is the gateway for the outer universe. It is the gateway that suggests also something of a primordial nature. Because they didn't come from a primordial nature, their heart chakra is closed down. That means that they don't have the type of feeling we have. They have a guilt deficiency, a guilt deficiency. And that guilt deficiency and all, they're sociopaths by nature, which means they can justify it. They can live by it. We're talking about a psychopath, a sociopath. We're talking about a sick individual, which now has the entire world sick. Because he's only operating off of what he said, a third of his particular brain. Whereas that's right, because the other part of the brain can be accessed by the pineal gland. And since now we live in a society where it is set up to even access only a third of the brain, we're not even trained into accessing the greater part of the brain. But we used to do it all the time. It was called talent. It was called genius. And they are cut off from accessing that third part of the brain, the other regions of the brain, because they don't have the pineal action or the pineal ability. So when you hear about no one will enter into the kingdom unless they're circumcised, they're not talking about circumcision of the penis, because what about a woman? They're talking about circumcised, because also the pineal gland is also called the penis of God. And the the pineal gland that they're talking about is not necessarily talking about the penis down here. It's talking the uncircumcised penis is talking about a calcified pineal gland, which broken down, that's uncircumcised, which means it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And all of the above, they can't see, they can't hear. The DNA, if it's a mock nuclei with one ring of consciousness, even the DNA is only 2 strands. But they are even saying now that even in genetics, even as recent as 1998,